Today I am setting up my business bullet journal for 2023, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey y'all, welcome back to Dots and Beyond. My name is Beth, and if you've been around for a little bit, you know that I do keep two bullet journals. One is personal and one is for my business or work. And today we are going to be setting up this official bullet journal edition 2 as my work journal. Now I chose this journal for the higher page count as well as some of the customizable bullet journal features that Ryder Carroll put into this particular edition, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. This packaging cover gives us a lot of information, like the fact that this was built for bullet journaling. It also tells us that there's 120 GSM paper, so not too thin, not too thick. It has a dot grid or a smart dot grid layout, more on that later. There is a pocket bujo guide, which I appreciate, a pocket in the back. It lies flat. There are 3 bookmarks and 206 numbered pages, and of course it is sustainably sourced. Opening up to the inside cover, and this particular edition has a built-in grid guide, and a grid guide are the measurements that help you divide up your pages when making spreads. But they took this edition a little further and also gave us these little indicators that are almost invisible to see on the pages themselves to help separate pages into halves or thirds. Here we see at the bottom of these pages there are 3 small dots on the third markings, 2 small dots on the center, just extending off of the dot grid. It's very, very subtle, but it is so very helpful. And then each page has this singular dot at the very bottom of the page, which Ryder Carroll, the creator of the bullet journal, uses to indicate that a page has been completed or is no longer needed by crossing off that dot. I'm not sure that's what I will use it for, but I do like the idea, and I'll see if I can't utilize that in some way. Here in the back of the journal there are some sticker sheets. One of those is for daily planning, so this does have months and some dots and numbers on it. The other is for labeling of the journal. And for continued use of that packaging, here are listed more features, including the fact that we have a pocket guide, index pages, the stickers, the future log pages, the key page already set up. Here is that pocket guide. I do love that they include this, especially for those individuals who are not familiar with bullet journaling. So maybe you don't need to buy the entire bullet journal book. You can just buy this journal and have a pocket guide showing you how the bullet journal method works. In setting up this very minimal journal, I have definitely taken advantage of these features, including the sticker sheets and especially the smart grid guide. But I am going to go ahead and remove this packaging once and for all, and we are going to get into the planning. Now to bullet journal, all you need is a notebook and a pen, but I do have a couple of other colored pens off here to the right. I have got 2 black, one in a .04, one in a .01. I have a cool gray in a .01 and a light cool gray in a .01, all of which are Sakura Pigma microns. I also have 2 zebra mild liners. Both of these came in the neutral set that came out this year or last. I particularly picked these mild liners because they sort of match the coppery color of the stickers. I do realize these stickers look gold on camera, but they are very much a copper color. On the inside of the journal, I normally like to mess with these end papers and sort of put my own thing here, but I don't have to do that because they've gone ahead and created a great end paper for me. We do have this odd page where the end paper is glued to the first page of the journal. I'm just going to leave that alone and not mess with that in this particular journal. Moving on to the cover page and nameplate, I have simply printed out this picture, which was from Unsplash. I did add a little 2023 header to it in Canva, printed it out on matte printer paper or matte photo paper, which I will link in the description box below, as I'm going to use it for my monthly headers as well. It is not sticker paper, so I'm going to have to put some sticky here on the back in order to adhere this to the journal. You absolutely do not have to have a printer at home in order to get these sort of prints. You could have them done on a Free Prints app and have them delivered to you, or you could have them printed at an office store such as Staples or Office Depot. And then when it comes to placing it in the journal, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm not really paying too close attention as to how straight it gets in there. I'm just dropping it in before putting in my name. And in this particular journal, I am going to print it in instead of using cursive. This journal does get dragged all around my place of work, so I will also add my work email address later, my cell phone number, as well as my office number. And that will wrap up my cover page and my nameplate page, and we will move on to the next page, which is a preset key from the bullet journal method. I do use most of the key icons that are original to the bullet journal method, so these first 8 that are in here were pre-printed into the journal, and those are task, completed, migrated, scheduled, canceled, note, and event. Oh, and the star for priority as well. I then added my own keys for journal, deadline, research, idea, and review. And because this journal already had the icons in black, I chose a black pen to write those, and then the descriptor in gray, I chose the cool gray pen to write the descriptor for mine as well, just to make them blend in a little bit better. But that also leaves us room to add some icons if we need to. This page on the right is labeled intentions. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I have a goal page set up later on, so I may just write a list of things that I kind of want to get done in 2023 here, but I'm going to have to come back and revisit this page. The next spread we are going to set up is our index, and I do use an index in my work journal. It's quite vital in order for me to find the things that I'm looking for. This journal has given us 4 pages or 2 spreads for index, and I am going to separate those out into categories. I do want to build some structure into these pages with columns and lines, so each page is going to have a column for page numbers as well as a column for the type of pages that I will be collecting on those particular indices. On this first page will be my annual collections and probably any subsequent collections that I create. A collection is just a gathering of ideas on a specific topic that you want to know where to be able to find them in your journal. Next up will be my event list. While I have left venue management, I'm still very much an event manager and I do a lot of large events in the year, so we're going to go ahead and put an event list here. And then to divide my pages, I'm using this very light cool gray and a ruler. I'm very much a ruler girl when it comes to setting up my work journal. I do want those lines to be super straight. As I'm setting up the column and row structure, you can see that this very light color gives me just a hint of dividing line between the things. It's almost as light as a pencil line, but that's definitely what I was looking for. And the 2 indices categories that I put on the spread are projects as well as where my monthlies will be located. And that is it for the index. I am not going to add any artwork. I am not going to highlight every other line. This is just a clean, simple index. And after we set up some other pages, we will come back and put them here so that you can see how it works. The next 2 spreads in this journal are for the future log, and I have gone ahead and filled in all of the little tiny date numbers for my future log. I do enjoy writing these by hand. It's just one of those things that I like to do when I set up my journals. For this particular future log, I did do my month numbers in the cool gray color, and then I put my week numbers off on the right of each mini calendar in black, just to have a small delineation between those 2 items. I also highlighted the weekdays, the Monday through Sunday, with this mild liner just to give it a little bit of color. What I haven't done yet is put in my monthly headers, and that's because we are going to use this sticker sheet that came with the journal. This sticker sheet does come with 2 of each month, so I'm going to use one of those here on the future log, and then the secondary sticker I will use when I get to that month and I'm ready to set it up. In this journal, the future log pages come with just a header and the dot grid. They are blank and you can set up that structure any way that you want. So while I have done this in 3 vertical columns on each page, using those little dotted lines at the bottom to tell me where to separate in thirds, you have the freedom to set up horizontally or, of course, whatever works best for you. For those wondering what a future log is, this is the place that you write down appointments, events, notes you want to remember on a specific month before you have actually set up that monthly spread so that you can come back and refer to them. And that will be it for the future log. However, I did not want to crowd the future log with recurring meetings, those meetings that happen every week, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, just those things that happen over and over and over again. I wanted to leave the future log for things that are a little bit more important. And so on this next page, I have created myself a recurring meeting log so that I can track those things separately, remove them if I need to remove them, add new ones if I need to add new ones, and we're going to go ahead and set that up now. This is the first completely blank spread in the journal and it had no pre-made headers. I have decided I'm going to go ahead and keep my headers at the very top of the page, just like the ones that are pre-printed, just to keep everything cohesive. Like the index, this is going to be a very simple chart and I only have 4 columns. Those columns, the first one is going to be the days of the week and I'm only going to put in Monday through Friday as I don't have recurring meetings on the weekend. The second column is frequency, so I will have spots for weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and bi-monthly. The third column is for the time of that meeting, and I left 4 digits because I do use a 24-hour clock. And the last column will have the name of the meeting. Now I'm going to go ahead and separate all of my columns using that very light gray like we used on the index. To illustrate how this works, I'm going to go ahead and put in a recurring staff meeting that we have. This staff meeting recurs bi-weekly, so I'm going to put a dot on the bi-weekly spot. It also recurs on Wednesdays, so I'm going to go ahead and put a dot there. The time for that meeting is 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to put 0900, and again, that is a staff meeting. This is just one of many recurring meetings I am going to need to add to this chart, so I hope it gives you an idea of how you can keep a log of your recurring meetings outside of your digital calendar if you would like to do so. I specifically use it for reference when I am setting up a monthly log at the beginning of each month. Moving on to the next page, and this is going to be a log of both my personal business values as well as the core values for my organization. While company core values definitely keep an organization headed in the right direction, I find it very helpful, specifically for me, to also have those personal values that I carry from job to job with me in here as well. To do this, I am going to put our organizational values on the left and my personal values on the right. They are then going to be every other line sort of interwoven with one another, so I am going to delineate them by color, doing the business values in the gray color and my personal values in black. The core values for my organization are respect, diversity and equity, integrity, excellence, teamwork, creativity, and safety. And my own personal work values are to lead with respect, listen and observe, own my actions, find and fill the gap, nurture relationships, and to embrace change. I thought about putting a little something down here at the bottom, but ultimately decided just to leave that blank for now. I find that many people in a traditional job environment have no idea what their company core values are, so you might want to consider adding this to your bullet journal to remind you on a daily basis. Moving on to the next spread, which is going to be my goals page, and it is just going to be this one spread for now. As an event planner, one of my goals is always going to be to execute all of the events that I'm assigned to the best part of my ability, and so I chose not to put that sort of a goal in either one of these spots. These really are for the very large long-term goals that I have within my organization. For 2023, I am focusing on one large goal per quarter, and since my journal pretty much only lasts me a quarter, on the left side I'm going to put in the large goal for quarter 1. On the right side I will put in the large goal for quarter 2. And then I'm going to have a spot for me to break down each one of those goals into each month of the quarter. So on the left it'll be January, February, and March, and for the right it will be April, May, and June. I will then further break down those goals for each month down in the big area below in much more detail, listing out those things that need to get done to accomplish the larger goal. This is a very simplified goals layout. It's here merely for reference so that I can check back and make sure that I'm still heading in the right direction. I do have some other digital tools within the office that will outline all of these goal steps in a lot more detail than my bullet journal. By the time I get to the end of quarter 1, I should be wrapping up this journal, and so I'll take out the quarter 1 goal from my next bullet journal setup, and in it I will have quarter 2 and then quarter 3 goals instead. That's it for this very easy, simple goal setup, and we are going to move on to my next spread, which I decided I wanted to try to put in some kind of an event timeline. My plan for this spread is for it to just be a very high-level look at the events that I have coming up, how many of them are very close to one another, and what the anticipated attendance of each one of those events will be. It was also important to me to keep it all on one spread and not have some lengthy running timeline, so I have allotted 4 dot grid spaces for each of the monthly headers, and I'm just going to draw a line underneath those headers to mark our timeline. Now I was going to draw vertical lines in between each of the months going down as well, and now that I'm looking at this, I have decided I'm going to change my mind and I am not going to do those, so I'm going to go ahead and erase those lines and see how I think this looks, and I really do like it better without the vertical lines dividing the page, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in my attendance key down at the bottom. For event size, I have less than 10 people, 11 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 500, 500 to 1,000, and then those that are more than 1,000. I then deviated from my original plan for this spread one more time as I brought in the rest of the mild pack or neutral pack of these mild liners. I felt like I needed more colors to fill in this key for the event sizes. I do have a pen case that comes with me to and from work. All of these already live in that pen case, so there's something I'm already going to have on me and I don't have to make any changes to that everyday carry. Now what the 4 spaces per month did was to roughly give me 4 weeks per month, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to put an event here on the second week of February. This is an event that we do for our entire organization, which is more than 12,000 individuals, so I left it black, which is the key for more than 1,000. And I'm just going to draw a line connecting it from the timeline down to any random spot that I pick and write in the name of that event. And for 2023, in the second week of February, we are celebrating Kindness Week. I will fill out the events that I know I have later, but it will eventually give me a big picture of what 2023 is going to look like. And that will help me better plan out my event strategy for 2024 and all subsequent years. In event planning, there's some things that are very high energy and some that are very low energy, and this is really about time management for me and knowing where that energy is going to be placed throughout the year. One program that I manage in my role that is made up of a number of smaller events is managing our MVP program within our organization. MVP, of course, standing for Most Valuable Player, and we do give out one of these each month. While the MVP program is definitely event related, I do set it up much like a project page because there are repeated elements that I have to do month after month, from polling nominations to setting up voting and then arranging the surprise for the MVP. There's just a lot of details that are the exact same from one month to the next. So the chart on the left has got a spot for date because I tend to do those things on the same day of each month, the task, and then an Alistair method for me to track from January to July as I am doing the MVP program for the first half of 2023. And then the spread on the right is an MVP list where I can list the name, title, and contact information for each one of our MVPs. Our fiscal year does run from July to June of each year, so I already have our first 6 MVPs for this fiscal year, and I will just copy that information from my last journal for those first 6 months. I will fill this in with a full list of tasks I have, but as one example, I pull all nominations on the 15th of the month, so I'll put the 15th here, pull nominations, and then when I complete that task for each one of the subsequent months, January, February, March, April, I will just mark that task complete here on this Alistair method version of tracking. And of course, I have left myself enough room to put in each step of that MVP process for each month. One of the reasons I keep the MVPs and their contact information on this right side of the spread is because we do bring them all back together at the end of the year for a luncheon to celebrate their accomplishments all in one group. Most of them have never met one another. I also use this as a reference page if I need to fill tables at other sort of company-wide events. This is a good group of people for us to highlight at any time of the year, and so I do keep that close by and handy. The MVP program is hands down one of the favorite parts of my job because I get to pop up and surprise somebody on our staff 12 times a year and really just make their day. But I do have much larger events that I have to plan from month to month, and so I do set up a brainstorming page for each one of my very large events that I know is forthcoming in my journal. This can be anything from a groundbreaking to a grand opening, which are always high profile, or even just planning our holiday celebration event for all 12,000 employees. Here I like to include the name of the event, the month that it's going to fall, and then the actual date. Sometimes I don't know a date until closer to. Then I have the time of the event, the location or the site that it's going to take place. Again, we are scattered all over the state. And then the last thing I have is account number. One of the good things about being an event manager in a large organization is that most of the time I'm not spending money out of my own budget. Below this basic event information, I leave the bottom 2/3 of this entire page completely blank, and I label it Sandbox. This is a place that I can write down notes, I can brainstorm. It's really just a repository for me to jot down specific details that I want to move into my event planning system at a later time. And then on the top portion of the right page, I am writing index. And yes, I do keep a separate index here for all of my notes related to this particular event. So if I am in a meeting and I am taking notes, or if I answer the phone and I take notes during a phone call, wherever those notes land in my bullet journal, I can come and put that page number here. That way I can always flip through my page numbers that are specific to just this event. So while this event page will live in my main index, then each event page also has its own particular index so that I can locate those pages when I need them. I do still like to have my page divided, so we're going to go ahead and get out that light gray again and go ahead and mark our divided lines very faintly, just so that we can delineate the different areas on the page. I do have digital tools for event planning as well, but for what I keep in my notebook, I have found that this is working for me. And then I have about 10 or 12 additional pages back here that will also be set up for larger events that I know I have coming. I'm not going to set those all up on camera, but we will go ahead and flip over to what will be a project page instead of just an event page, but it is also set up very much the same way. Now, I used to have set up much more detailed event project pages and then regular project pages, including timelines and how long it was going to take me to complete things, that sort of thing. But I am using digital tools for those. Within my organization, we are required to use the digital tools that are provided for us for information security purposes. And so most of what I am using now falls within the Microsoft suite. So Microsoft Project, Planner, Teams, that sort of thing. However, if I am in a meeting and I need to quickly reference something regarding an upcoming event or one of my projects, it's probably located here in the bullet journal as well, and I can look that up quickly and quietly and relay that information. The project page differs just slightly from the event page. I do still have space here on the left side for me to put metadata like the name of the event and that sort of thing. I also still have place for a sandbox for me to play with my ideas down here on this left page. And on the right, I have left the same space for me to include an index specific to pages that are going to reference this project. The one thing I have done differently is that I do try to do 3 projects per quarter. And so I have listed here the months of the quarter, January, February, and March, for me to write down some specific things related to that project that I want to get done within each one of those months. One example of a project I'm trying to wrap up here in December of 2022 is that our event information for our organization is scattered all over the place, and I got approval to create a special event website specific to our organization where I'm consolidating all of that information. So that's the sort of projects that I work on in addition to my event planning. Just as I left myself extra pages to do events, I have left myself 2 additional spreads for projects. As I stated, I try not to have more than 3 major projects in a particular quarter. Now, if I do have to add project or event pages later on, I will just make sure that those are noted in the index if they are outside of the front of this collection. And speaking of that index, we need to flip back and start filling it out. I am going to fill these out by section, starting with annual, flipping back to make sure I have these page numbers correct. And that first set that I'm going to put in the index is the future log, which are on pages 8 through 11, the recurring meetings, which are on page 12, values, which is on page 13, and my quarter 1 and quarter 2 goals, which are on pages 14 and 15. In the events category, I will put my events timeline, which is on pages 16 and 17, the MVP program, which is on pages 18 and 19, and then the first event page that we built in here, which was Kindness Week, will fall on pages 20 and 21. I will also add in my project pages at a later date, and then a week from today I will do my January setup for this journal and also add that here to the index. Flipping back to the beginning for a flip through, and I promised y'all minimal, and that is exactly what you are going to get with this business journal setup. For this setup, I do have the photograph that I printed for the header, my key. If you have any ideas of what I can put in this intentions page, since I already have a goal set up, please let me know in the comments below. Here is the indices, again, which I have separated by category, so it's a little easier for me to find things. And as we flip through the rest of this setup, other things that I have put in my work journal have been my Myers-Briggs assessment so that I know how I relate to other people. When starting a new job, I have drawn a map of the place that I am working in my new bullet journal, or I have put a list of teammates and their titles so I can remember all of the people's names that I meet. This core values page is a standard for me. I do tend to put it in all of my work journals, as is this goals page. Again, as somebody who works in the event industry, my collections do lean event heavy, and so that's why I do have a number of event pages here that I set up at the beginning of the journal to make sure I have all the notes for the upcoming events that I am planning all in one location. But I also use it to track specialty programs like this MVP program, as well as individual project pages for larger projects that I do need to work on. If you are planning on setting up a business bullet journal this year, or even if you're planning on setting up just a very minimal personal bullet journal this year, I hope this video gave you a few ideas. If it did, you know what to do. Go ahead and give the video a big thumbs up and let that YouTube algorithm know that other people need to watch it as well. If you missed my 2023 personal bullet journal setup video, I will link the playlist for planmas down in the description box below so that you can go and watch that next. I have one more 2023 setup coming your way tomorrow as I set up my son's 3rd bullet journal. And we're going to do things a little differently for him this year. Thank you for spending part of your day with me as I set up my work journal for 2023. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one.